Hello, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Smart ICO Investor Podcast. I am Samuel McCullough, and I am incredibly glad to have you here for another episode. Today, we have a really special guest. It's TommyWorldPower. Tommy is the founder and creator of Energi. Energi is a new infrastructure project which has already been released and is already trading, but it has a bit of differences from other coins that I know of. And this is the reason I wanted to have Tommy on. Plus, I really like Tommy. He's a great guy. We really have some shared philosophies when it comes to life and how to live it. But when it comes to his project, it's quite different. And I really like how it works. So in the kind of later part of last year and then this year as well too, I had been kind of in touch with a few smaller coin projects, notably one called Hush, which I really like. It's a great project. It's a fork of Zcash, and it had some issues though. And the main issue is that they ran out of the cash. They didn't have money to hire any developers. They didn't have any money to do any marketing. And so it was really difficult for them to hire the people that they need and grow the team and grow the value of the coin. So Tommy ran into this as well too in another project which we had both been looking at, which was called Pascal coin. Now Pascal coin is again another project which is similar to Nano. It has very high transaction speeds, but at the same time, it didn't have very good branding and they didn't really have money to hire anyone. So taking on this experience, Tommy went out and created his own coin, and it's called Energi. And it's different in that the way that it's set up is it's very heavily based towards being able to provide for the infrastructure of the coin, for its development, for being able to hire people to do marketing, to do developing. And you can see on the Energi World, so that's energi.world page, they have a very interesting emission schedule. So approximately 1 million energy is released per month, giving it a decreasing inflationary monetary base. 10% of that energy goes towards the energy backbone, 10% goes towards the miners, 40% goes towards the masternodes, which that right now is going to the miners at the moment, and then 40% goes to the treasury. And that 40% that goes back to the treasury is then used to hire people, to bring on new staff and pay for partnerships and do all the things that a normal business would do. And this is very different from a lot of other coins, notably Hush, which had to go back and implement ways for them to raise money from the community to be able to grow and develop. And so I think there's this weird dichotomy in that if you make everything too decentralized, you don't have a way to recoup any funds to put it back into the coin itself. And especially if you're trying to grow the community a little bit inorganically at the beginning, unlike something like Bitcoin, which has a huge community of developers who are providing work and support for it. If you're just starting out, you need to have some sort of incentivization structure for the people who are going to be assisting you in your development. So I think it's a very cool project in the way that it's been set up. It's on exchanges right now. I'll post it below. I'll post the website. Please check it out. I really enjoy talking with Tommy. He's a great guy. He comes from a very good perspective, and it's really nice to actually sit down and to talk with somebody who is coming from the right place. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I really did. It was great, and let's hop into it now. So welcome. Great to have you here. I know you're off in Thailand at the moment. So we've been talking about Energi for a while. It's your new coin that you've been developing. I know a little bit about it, but why don't you tell everybody about well, let's see. Actually, let's go back. The Energi is it's proof of work, or no, it's proof of stake coin with masternodes and smart contracts. That's correct? Or what else am I missing?
It is a proof It's a proof of work coin. And by the way, thank you for having me, Sam.
Yeah.
Sam's a friend of mine. Been in the crypto space, just for anyone who doesn't know who's listening. But yeah, so sounds like we'll be talking about energy a bit in this. Kind of explain to people. Okay, cool. Let's just give people a little bit of an intro. So I approached the space from largely an investing background. That's how I found cryptocurrency, actually. It's kind of how I approach the world. My alias is TommyWorldPower, as some of you who know me. And the root of that name actually comes from the fact that I've been approaching the world from a perspective of world powers and the highest powers in the world. And that isn't actually just limited to what we have in our physical world and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that, by the way, us humans, we don't quite understand or aren't in the scientific textbooks yet, but very much do exist. An example of that is, that we know, like our phones right now, I'm talking to you on a cell signal and you're in Russia. I can't see that signal, but somehow it's working. And there's a lot of stuff like that out there that we still don't understand scientifically. A lot of this stuff we will discover. So anyway, but we can intuitively feel some of those things, by the way. Anyhow, so world power. So I said, okay, well, what's the highest paying job in the world? Those types of questions. Trading and investing is the highest paying job in the world. It's the only job you can make billions of dollars in a day.
Are you sure? Because I thought distributed across the entire population of the world, it would be, well, somebody told me this once. So you may think it's a trader or somebody like Warren Buffett, but really when you distribute it across the entire population, it's a dentist or an actuary. Because
it's what?
It's a dentist.
A dentist.
Right, because you can be a really bad trader and you can be a really good trader. So the extremes are further away from the mean. But if you're a dentist, you can't really be a bad dentist, can't you?
Okay, but you can't really make billions of dollars as a dentist.
Well, no, but
right?
but across all of the dentists, right, their average salary is going to be higher than traders. Because
I think
there's a lot of trade. There's, again, coming back. So there may be traders who are at the extremes and making billions of dollars, but there's also a lot that wash out and go bankrupt and never make a penny.
So we're talking about two different things, right? As an individual, right? If you want to be powerful in the world, right? Perspective of world power, and you have a choice of being able to do whatever you want in your life. Obviously, you can be far more powerful being a strong trader investor than you ever can as a dentist, unless you're doing something, like rocket science, dentistry, whatever, creating a massive, who knows type, you know what I mean? Like that's not what you're talking about either. Dentists make $100,000 a year. Some traders and investors make billions of dollars plus, sometimes in a day. That's the point that I'm trying to make. So I'll give an example, which, it's kind of like a bit of I'm not a huge fan of this example, but it makes the point really well. The Rothschilds in the war between England and France, they knew the English won the war, but they sent a pigeon back to say the French won the war. And as a result, the stock market in England crashed, to pennies on a dollar. And then they are there just buying everything up. And the next day, the real news comes back that the English actually won the war. They made God knows how many billions, especially valued in current dollars, within a day. So again, I'm not a huge fan of that example, but it serves the purpose really well of just explaining that. So there's no other job you can do that with. There's no job that provides more than that. The only other realm that can compete with that is creating a really powerful organization, say like an Apple or something like that, a massive multi-$100 billion or trillion-dollar company. But that can often require a whole lot more work than that. So anyway, I don't want to get too off the subject.
Yeah.
But that's essentially how I approach the world. And so on that note, I started keeping track of the best investments in the world. I found Bitcoin in 2012. It was $10. I put it on my list as potential best investments in the world. I read that it went up like 5,000% in the last year, and it was like too good to be true in my head. And I was like, I'll check it out later. And then a couple months later, I'm watching on my phone as it goes up to $200, crashes to 100, and I was like, wow. And most stocks, when they go up like that in a bubble, are come right back down to earth, like pretty much close to where they started, which I thought was going to happen. But so I said, I'll buy Bitcoin at $50, which I thought was like even a generous price to pay for it, but it never really hit $50. I might have hit it for like a day and some flash crash or something, but it didn't stay there. So I missed my entry. And then a couple months later, that was in spring, like around March. And then in November, I just remember where I was. I remember on the street I was out working. And I look at my phone and I'm looking at Bitcoin price and it's like $700. The day before it was like 600. I'm like, holy cow, what is going on? This thing went from $10 to now passing $600 in the course of about 8 months. And I was like, wow. And that was just my kick in the ass because, excuse my language. But anyway, something that goes up, it went up ultimately about 100 times. It's like, man, if I put 10 grand in, I would have been a millionaire now. So I said, I'm never taking my eyes off this again. And I never did. And then, of course, I made my initial investments at the peak of the bubble, you know, and then I got to sit through the longest bear market that has existed in crypto up to this point. I continued to accumulate at the bottom and stuff. I was an investor in the Ethereum ICO. I only had $500 to put in the Ethereum ICO, and then I managed to squeeze in another $250. And, you know, so I wasn't really rolling in money at the time, but even with $750, that's over 1,000 Ethereum, you know, so Ethereum hit a peak of $1,500 in the last bubble. So it's worth about 1.5 million from that 750. Obviously Ethereum is down now, but just to make a point of what is possible for those of you who don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of money to start. I didn't have a lot of money to start, but I did what I could. So let's see. So yeah, I went through that.
Yeah. So I mean, but you learned some enduring lessons about the crypto markets and about what they can do. And I think, you know, we had spoken quite a bit about, you know, what was good and bad about different protocols. And you had done a lot of ICO investments in the past year. And I think you learned a lot from, well, actually we had first started really talking because we were really interested in some lower market cap coins. I believe the one was Pascal coin, which, you know, on the face had great developers, but they had no money, and they had no money to develop, and the project just kind of was languishing in development hell and had no business development, had nowhere to go, and I think it's still kind of suffering today.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you what happened with Pascal coin is, so I observed the likes of IOTA just taking off. This was, you know, late last year, I think October, November-ish, 2017. And I noticed IOTA is taking off. IOTA has a multi-billion value, and IOTA's major scalability is DAGs, and therefore that they're infinitely scalable, right? That's IOTA's main value proposition. And I'm like, okay, so I'm looking at the market, and I become re-aware of Pascal coin. Pascal coin also has an infinitely scalable solution. So that's a lot of how I approach the market, by the way, is looking for these kind of asymmetrical opportunities where there's something that is clearly undervalued compared to things that are much higher value in the same realm. And that's also, by the way, how I approach a lot of ICO investing. And now over the past year, we've really started to see what industries perform well in the ICO market and which ones don't. And it's helped me dodge some bullets in that regard. By the way, for instance, so far, real estate apps have done really bad in the crypto market. So by understanding which industries are performing well and which ones aren't, you get a hang of it. Exchange ones do okay. I would say for any exchange ICO or anything like that, or token or anything, it's really important that ideally they're already out and working, and then they are raising exchange tokens. We can see that even today, Binance Coin has endured through this bear market really well because they have utility. Utility is huge. So anyway, Pascal coin, I saw an opportunity there. And I also actually was aware of RaiBlocks, which has been rebranded to Nano. Someone brought it to my attention, but I researched it a bit and I skipped that one, sadly, because that was before it went up 100 times, you know. And instead, I picked Pascal coin. So it's like I was pointing my gun in the right direction, basically, and I just hit the wrong target, essentially. I don't know The market just never caught on to Pascal coin. I still think it's undervalued. If people really are after infinitely scalable coins, and that's just how it goes, you know. And that's a huge part.
So, but you started working with the team quite closely, didn't you? I mean, you were taking a very active role in the Discord and leading a lot of the changes to get some protocol changes. I mean, you were being very active in the amount of time that you were spending with them.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was very active, but I was active, and I did influence them to create a treasury, which is great. And we have a treasury with Energi. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. But the problem with many cryptocurrencies and many projects today is still the vast majority of them, over 90% for sure. There's no system for funding, right? You can't rely on volunteer work, not at a big scale. My lead developer, president now for Energi, Ryan, actually made a great point. Even these big open source projects like Linux are essentially sponsored by huge corporations. So yes, they're open source, but a lot of that development is actually directed with money, you know? So wow, what a surprise. People have to actually pay to put food on their table, right? They have to make a living. You can work nights and weekends so much, but if you want to have a serious organization, you need to be able to fund that. You need to have people who can be committed to working on that full time and have an ability to make a living from that. So I think that's kind of a no-brainer, but it still seems it escapes many people in the crypto space. I won't name this community, but I was active in a different community for a while in crypto and kind of a fan of it, but their leadership doesn't seem to understand that concept and just thinks that volunteerism is the way that's totally okay and you'll be dominant in that way. It's not going to happen. The future of cryptocurrency will have cryptocurrency organizations with tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people working within one larger group. And those people are going to get paid from working in that cryptocurrency through a treasury, for instance. And when you have that much power across the board, development, marketing, even defense, that can be legal defense, that can be cybersecurity. You also can have lobbying power, which is important. All these things need to be there for a very large organization to really create clout in the world. Mm-hmm. So that's where I see crypto going.
So how do you see the difference between having something like the Ethereum Foundation, where did they pre-mine a set of coins, or is it just that they gave coins to the foundation to be able to fund it?
Ethereum had an ICO,
right? Then the funds the funds that they used, they then used later on to fund development.
Actually, I remember back when Ethereum was about $1, January 2016 or so, maybe even a bit before that. I remember Ethereum was shutting down their offices. I would keep a close check on Ethereum, I'd be on their Reddit every day. At that time, you could hang out on Reddit. I don't have time for that anymore, unfortunately, but I used to do that a lot with crypto stuff back in the day. But Ethereum was running out of money. They were shutting down their offices, and they said they had about a year and a half left of runway. So, and then they're going to be out of money. So luckily for them, Ethereum took off from $1 to about $10 between January and March 2016. And I remember Vitalik tweeting or mentioning how he was, negotiating sales all the way up to $7. So I'm sure it was a huge boon for them that they got that funding because they desperately needed it to continue. I'm sure they would have functioned one way or another, but they would have massive cuts if that didn't happen. So
that makes sense then. So, one of the companies, I was working for a company back in December, and the guy who was leading the company, Yevgeny, he worked with a Russian bank back in what year was that when Ethereum was like $7 and they were looking for funding? Was it 2000?
That was 16, early 2016.
Yeah. 2016. So Vitalik actually came to Russia to meet with the Russian bank, and they wanted to sell to the Russian bank about $250 million worth of Ethereum at $7. And
250 million.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they had that much to sell. I don't think so.
I mean, it was a lot. I mean, it was a sizable investment at $7. I'd have to go back and check the market cap.
Yeah, the market cap of Ethereum then, it was around 80 million at $1.
80
so
million.
It was probably around half a billion.
I mean, maybe it was about, so it was about $500 million then? Or no, sorry.
Half a billion would be the total market cap. And I don't think the Ethereum Foundation had roughly 20% or so, something like that. I don't know. I can't recall exactly, but.
So maybe it was like maybe it was like 10 million or something.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah. So they came and they met with this Russian bank, and the bank said, oh, actually the bank's tech people love the project. They looked at it, they loved Vitalik, they loved the project, they thought it was really cool, and they wanted to invest. But then it got to the accountants, and it got to the compliance department, and they resoundingly said no.
Too bad. What a shame. I'm sure they love that decision now.
Well, it's
even now. Yeah.
I mean, but but they're a bank, right? I mean, a bank can't take that level of risk. And there was, again, in that time, there was no way to properly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was so hard to convince anyone to invest at the time.
Right.
Like I was an evangelist. I don't know if I'm saying the word right. Evangelist. There we go. Of crypto for such a long time, and I was telling taxi cab drivers about it and all this stuff in the bear market, and people seemed kind of interested, but no one was going to do it. It's like, oh, cool, and I'm like, man, you guys don't get it. 2014, 2015. Sorry, it was to interject here. I got to a point. I told my family about it, my parents about it. My parents got to a point where they were like, Tommy, we don't ever want to talk about cryptocurrency ever again. Like straight up. And I was like, you know what? I talked to my brother, and my brother said, just forget about other people, just do what you can. And I was like, maybe you're right. I wanted the CEO of the mortgage company I was working for. It's worth many multi-millions, I think hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was imagining him investing in Ethereum, and this Ethereum was $1. I was like, just imagining him investing $100,000 or a couple $100,000, and no, he wouldn't even entertain a meeting with me. So if you're listening to this, hey, whatever, this is how life goes. And so, by the way, this is really important for everyone out there who's like, oh, I don't have money. Just do it. Just do what you can with what you have. I was getting $3 lunches instead of going out for a $10 lunch because I was buying Ethereum at $1 with that extra $7, and it was a tough time, but, especially that I was in crypto already for so many years, and I just had nothing to show for it because it's in a bear market. So
right.
I want to share that with people. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows. You gotta be sometimes a bit tough. So
let's come back to energy. I wanted to go over the distribution system because it's a bit different than many other coins. Actually, most other coins. In a typical proof of work system, the miner gets the majority of the rewards, but that's not actually the case with yours.
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose I should mention why I created Energy in the first place, which so in seeking the best investments in the world, and by extension, the cryptocurrency space, as cryptocurrency is the realm of the best investment in the world, as soon as there's a better one, I will possibly transition to it. It doesn't exist. Please let me know if you guys think there is. I haven't found any. Anyway, so I was thinking about what is going to be the next big thing. I saw smart contract platforms coming on big time. Again, I mentioned that in the video I made about Ethereum in January 2016. The whole premise of that is what's next after Bitcoin. And I could see the next big thing was going to be smart contract platforms, more programmable cryptocurrency. And I actually just put a video on my channel yesterday where I talked about this, but I'm sure some people will say Bitcoin is programmable, but it's not the same realm as the degree that Ethereum and other smart contract platforms are programmable. And that's the point. It's like using a hand calculator versus using a full computer is the difference in the level of programmability or whatever. So anyway, looking for the best investments, I realized the power of a treasury. Dash had a treasury, and Dash is a fork of Bitcoin. I'm sure most of you guys probably know that. They're in about the top 20 coins. Dash had a smart system. They had a treasury, and their treasury is 10% of the coin emission. But I'm looking at Dash's treasury, and I'm like, these guys don't know how to use their money. No offense, to them, but they don't. They're funding these proposals. Like one of the proposals, like $500,000 for air shows for marketing, and I'm thinking, okay, from a marketing perspective, that's not how you do marketing. I've done sales and marketing for quite a bit of my life. It's like a big part of my background. If you're going to do marketing, you should test some different marketing activities and determine what's going to give you the highest return on investment. And you can measure that again over time as well for user retention.
Well,
but anyway, so they were just...
So people don't know how they should be marketed to. They just understand when they're seeing good marketing, correct?
Yeah, and then of course the organizations doing the marketing also don't know often how to do marketing. Mm-hmm. Probably the most important part of it, right? It's not the consumer's role to create a good marketing experience. It's the organization who's providing that marketing. It's their role, right?
Correct.
So consumer is just consuming. So, well, here we are. We're seeing like these kind of really weak, and I'm like, man, $500,000 for this. I understood the power of the treasury, and I was like, this is really powerful. You take that smart contract platform, you put a treasury behind it, and now we're talking. And a governance system built in by, I think that makes sense. Having shareholder system, higher shareholders have more say. These are designs from the traditional world that have worked and are continuing to work today. Like if you have your company out there, the larger shareholders have a larger say of how the organization is administered, right? That's how things work. It makes sense. So I think taking these concepts and putting them together is very powerful. So it didn't exist in the market, and otherwise I would have invested in it. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to create this. I saw it as something powerful enough. I wouldn't really engage in creating much because I like to focus on trading and investing. Again, very powerful. But this is one thing coming from the perspective of world power that I saw could be extremely powerful. And so that's why I set out to create Energi. We started development on it about a year, or it was last summer, more than a year now. Just started development. We had some part-time developers to kind of kick things off. And I kind of found out who was good later on. Ryan joined pretty early on, and he's a super smart guy and great to work with. And so he's grown, moved him to lead dev, and now I have him as president, just right under me as CEO. So I function as CEO and chairman essentially.
So how many people are on the team now?
We're about 20 people or so. It's not all full time, a bit mixed, full time, part time. I will say this market has been really rough. We launched April 14th, and right when we launched, the market went up for about 2 weeks, which is great. We just came alive, and then basically from May 1st till now, which we're August 20th, the market's straight down. So every project is suffering in this, including ours, which is difficult because we have a treasury system. And if we're born into a bull market, we'd have far more money to spend. And I am ready to expand aggressively whenever that's possible. I know how to do that. We would have numerous recruiters and stuff. I know how to expand the organization. But in this time, it's a bear market. It's time where just keeping the ship tight. And I want to get Energi as prominent, well-known, and growing as much as possible in this time. But yeah, over time, I think I know how to scale the organization a little better than just throwing mud on a wall and seeing what sticks, which seems to be how, and I think Dash is using their treasury better than anyone besides us. I mean, there's, again, no offense here, but just putting it out there, there's projects like Decred that have $50 million, and they're pretty much just sitting on it. I'm sure they're paying some people, but a 50-man organization and being pretty content with that, you're not going to be competitive in a couple of years. You got organizations like Tron, for better or worse, in many things they do, but Justin, the leader of Tron, does get that they need to expand and build out these things. And he's saying, he's hiring one new person a day. In a year, they want to have 400 people. This is the way cryptocurrency is going. You're going to have thousands of people working within a single organization in the next coming years. A 20-man team, a 50-man team for a larger encompassing organization is just not going to be able to compete long term. Obviously they can be for a little project within crypto, but as an actual crypto platform, you're not going to compete when you have 100 people just in the marketing arm of another organization. Who's going to get known, them or you with your 2-man marketing team? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, so how do you? I would think that this amount of inflation in the currency would have, severe downward pressure on the price. Do you feel the same way, or?
No, I look at it. There are two parts to that. One is looking at things from a return on investment standpoint. So let me give an example. I think the most critical part of any project in the crypto space as of this point is development. So let's look at it this way. If you hire someone like a genius Vitalik type kid, and the most he got paid at his last job was like no more than 100 or 150 grand, and you come and offer this guy 300 grand salary, I mean, you won that guy over. You have someone like that to create something like Ethereum for you. Would Vitalik be worth hiring at 300 grand for the value he brings? Absolutely, right? He's bringing much more than $1. Every dollar you spend paying him would bring much more than $1 back to the value of the ecosystem, right? And therefore the treasury is larger. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So money effectively spent should yield more money to actually continue to spend. And that's how I approach our treasury. And I think a treasury should be approached.
So how has the response in the community been so far? Is it, I know now must be tough in the middle of the deep bear market.
Yeah. What is the condition of the market is currently that everyone in the crypto space is basically buckled down. They're hibernating in their cave while there's a storm going on outside. No one really wants to sell their bags or whatever. They don't want to sell their existing crypto holdings. They're just trying to hibernate, which makes it very difficult for a project such as ours that just came in this space to be like, hey, look at us, because people are like, I'm just trying to avoid the storm. So that's the condition of the market. Nonetheless, we do what we can regardless of the market. We did an earn drop, which is basically like an airdrop campaign. We did that. We got it out. We had about 20,000 signups. Of that, we had about half the people actually participate. Some people just signed up and then didn't do anything. You don't get anything for the airdrop if you don't actually do anything. You have to do certain actions to get rewarded. And we're doing another round right now for US and Canada. And we'll be expanding probably 2 more rounds. We want to build more of a bit of a Western audience because that's our target audience. Initially, at least. We don't have speakers of all the different languages, like Southeast Asian languages on there right now. I'm sure we'll have that eventually. For now, we want English-speaking audience and whatnot. But yeah, we're doing our marketing even in this market, and we'll continue to do it. And sooner or later, people will see what we're doing. What I created is very powerful. With our treasury system, we have 40% of our coins released going to our treasury, and we also, and so there's a lot of things that go into this, and I want to keep things simple as possible. But we didn't have a ton of coin emission before we did the treasury. So for a lot of coins, their treasury, like Dash, has 10% of coins to their treasury, but Dash has already released so many coins that 10% treasury isn't much. We haven't released a ton of coins for Energi. So our treasury is in effect a much larger part of our coin issuance, essentially meaning we have a higher inflation rate, but that can be a positive thing. Again, a high inflation rate is good if every dollar you spend yields more than $1 back. It actually means faster growth than if you have a low inflation rate. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, let me put it this way. If you're emitting $50,000 a month, okay, and you're getting a return on investment of 10 times, you make 500 grand a month. But if you're emitting $5 million a month and you get a 10 times return, you bring 10 times $50 million of value back to the ecosystem. So I designed it that way on purpose. I wanted a decently like moderate to high inflation because I want that money to be used well, that cryptocurrency to be used well and bring back more value. So I pay a lot of attention to that to make sure we're utilizing our resources as efficiently as possible, especially in this market. It's really important. So at this point, we're basically focusing on marketing and development, and then just kind of basic operational stuff, and that's it. So, yeah.
So how has been the adoption, not adoption part, but just getting it out there? I mean, have you had issues with exchange listings, or have there been issues with marketing, or any other problems that you've had to work through?
Well, the beauty of our treasury is, again, we can pay for those things, right? That many coins can't pay for because they don't have a treasury. So exchange listings, we were able to get on nothing really big, but there's some exchanges that do offer exchange listings. CryptoBridge, Cryptopia, we're on those two, and CoinExchange.io, and we're also on the Coinomi wallet app. So it makes it easy for, you don't have to use a computer to use Energi, you can just have a smartphone. So those things can all be, maybe not for all exchanges, but you can get on those services with capital, right? So hence the importance of the treasury.
Yeah.
As far as user growth, again, that's where marketing comes in. The Earn Drop campaign, we're giving free energy to people to join our community, join our social media, create some awareness. And we'll have a lot more marketing stuff going on too. We went to the Blockchain Futurist Conference. We had our VP of Marketing, David, who is an extremely smart guy, by the way. Would love having him. He graduated college at the age of 18, summa cum laude. I don't know. I don't even know.
Yeah,
that's it. I definitely didn't graduate college that way. Anyway, but this guy is extremely smart. He was VP at Citibank before, and he's working with us. And so he's leading our marketing developments. Again, I have a pretty good marketing mind. We have a sharp team, so we know what we're doing, and we have the same approach. We look at marketing as what is going to get us the best return on investment in terms of quality users that we retain well as well. So that's how we approach our marketing activities. We'll try different things. Some things are pretty obvious, more obvious to try first than others, and are likely to succeed, and then we'll go from there. But that will be definitely an ongoing thing long term.
Yeah. So are you looks like you guys have a lot planned for what's coming up. All right, Tommy, rolling up on an hour, so we're gonna cut it out here.
Wow, has it been an hour already?
Yeah, pretty much. Just about.
Wait, but we were talking on the phone a little bit before we started.
Yeah, about 10 minutes.
Just talking about random stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
It's about 10 minutes. So we're about 40 something minutes at the moment.
Cool. Yeah, we were talking about traveling and stuff.
Yeah.
If you guys are curious, this doesn't really matter, but cool. I wonder if there's anything else pertinent to talk about. I would just emphasize the power of a treasury. Again, it's on our website, but the basic concept is you've got Bitcoin and they're spending their inflation rate's about 5%. Their market cap's around 100 million. So they're spending about $5 billion a year for paying miners. And this is why you see a huge mining industry built around Bitcoin, right? You've got Bitmain that's now worth multi-billion dollars, and they've got Walmart-sized centers that are just mining Bitcoin. Is this really an efficient use of inflation? And I argue not. I say Bitcoin was just about as secure a year and a half ago when it was around $1,000. I'd say that the network wasn't going to get overwhelmed by any government body or anything like that, even at that point. I would say the network. So one way you could look at it is the network at that point was 99.9999% secure. And now the network is 99.99999% secure. But for that extra 0.00009%, you're paying 10 times more than you're paying
there's
a year and a half ago. So.
Yeah, there's logarithmic growth that goes into the amount of hash power that has to come on. No, I don't
Yeah.
think definitely don't think it's sustainable for the long term. And we'll see where it peaks.
Just look at Bitcoin though. I mean, they're spending $5 billion a year on miners, but how many they can't. Bitcoin doesn't have a system in place to even pay anyone besides Blockstream, which is a private company that's paying the Bitcoin core developers, obviously pursuing their own private interests as you would expect. But that's a whole lot different than functioning in the direct interests of the cryptocurrency itself. And that's the difference. If Bitcoin had just 10% of their issuance going toward a treasury like Dash does, they'd have $500 million a year to spend. How many people could you hire with $500 million?
Right. So
5,000 people at $100,000 a year.
Are the rates always going to stay the same, or is there any amount of governance that can be built in to allow people to vote? Let's say, in a few years from now, they want to tail off some of the rewards and move them towards, just having pure masternode rewards, or just having more rewards for the miners. Is that built into the system, or this have to be an additional governance feature?
We do have a governance system in place. I'm not sure if I would allow that to be something to be voted on. That's a very sensitive thing because I don't think people would know what they're voting on in that regard. Yeah, we haven't crossed that bridge, but regardless of which, I wouldn't see something that I don't see how that would be beneficial. Maybe to masternodes, but masternode rewards are already very high. We have 40% of our coins going to treasury and 40% toward masternodes. The 40% for masternodes is very high again because we didn't start out with an ICO. We didn't do an ICO. We didn't start out by giving 100 million coins out to people. We just started emitting coins. So masternode rewards are actually going to start, by the way, in about a month. No one's got masternode rewards yet, but they'll be very high. We release 1 million coins per month. It's about 400,000 of those are to the masternodes. I don't think we'll have more than 400 masternodes online when we start those rewards. So if you just do the math, 400,000 coins divided by 400 masternodes is 1,000 energy per month. It costs 10,000 energy to create a masternode. So therefore, your 10,000 energy would generate 12,000 energy over the next year, which is 100%, 120% return on your energy. What this will do, by the way, is drive up demand for energy, and that's part of the reason I designed it that way. Conscious of that, it should be something to support our value. I think it'll help us quite a good deal. So I guess the all-encompassing concept here is we want to be leaders in the technology. We want the smart contract platforms. We want to be able to pay for those developers, which we need money to do, hence the treasury. We want and other things too, not just development. We also want marketing in there as well. We wanted masternodes for governance, and I think that's kind of I think this is something that's a huge thing that's missing in the space, the combination of treasury with smart contract platform and with governance. If you have those things, that's the future of crypto that I see now. Just like I said in January 2016, the future with smart contract platforms, we got that. Now we need to be able to grow these organizations to be massive, and the treasury is what's needed there. So once we have a smart contract platform, we're probably going to fork Ethereum because they're the most stable right now and they've been proven with time, and implement our treasury in there. I think if at that point at the latest, the market will be like, wow, okay, these guys have something. You have projects like Tezos that raised $150 million for the same type of value proposition, and is currently at over $1 billion market cap. EOS, same type of thing. So that's what I see as the future, and yeah, that's what I'm doing.
That's good. Do you have anything else you want to give a shout out to, or any projects you want to bring up? Get some information out of it.
I don't know. Shout out to all my fans.
Any other causes or people in the space that like doing good work, or charities or things that you've been involved with outside of the crypto space?
I certainly sense there's a lot of people there. I don't know exactly how to. Who do I talk about on this? But in general, I've certainly met a great number of people. I've made some very good friends in the space. I'm trying to think of what I should talk about.
I actually have a quick question. Have you
Yeah.
thought about donating a percentage of the treasury rewards to again to some
Great
charity
question.
or cause?
Yeah, absolutely. And if not the treasury itself, then I will be doing that myself. I'm a believer in charity. I'm looking currently at hiring someone to direct my charity efforts. One of the first things I want to do is actually create I think one of the most powerful things I can do is create like a web series or like put it on YouTube, teaching the most powerful concepts that have got me to where I am and that I think are really important for humanity. Some of those, as an example, some of those are consciousness, which ties to karma and these types of things. Karma is really important. People don't think about that. Just treating other people and animals and other things with kindness is very, very important. I think the human race needs to evolve and grow in that direction. I mean, we're getting better. Certainly, I think the human race is moving in a good direction, but we have a lot of room to improve overall. Conscious of what we eat, I'm here out in PP Island, and fortunately, a lot of people want to eat pizza. You know that because that's what they're selling. That's why they're selling it. I would love for there to be more super healthy vegan restaurants here. When I was in Copenhagen, if you go up to the north of the island, not where the full moon party is, there's a place called Sirtanu, and it's just amazing. It's a great environment, yoga, health. I was there for 5 months, just past 5 months before I came here, and these amazing restaurants, one called Eco, if you're ever there, eat.co, and it's vegan, but you're not even like really, if you haven't eaten vegan before, you won't care because the food is ridiculously delicious. You're just craving it all day. So, and lo and behold, it's also vegan. It's really good for you. I'd love to see more of that in the world. The law of attraction is one of the most powerful things I've ever learned in my life. It stems from the movie The Secret, which I saw 10 years ago. And there's some haters out there who, it's hilarious. They don't get it. They don't get the law of attraction. They think it's something hokey pokey. The only reason I am where I am is because of the law of attraction. What you think about, where you want to go is where you get what you believe. This is the same reason from world power to seeking the best investments in the world to cryptocurrency, and here we are having a conversation about it. Law of attraction is absolutely critical, and those who neglect it just put themselves, it's like a ship sailing through the ocean with no set destination. You're just going to go wherever the wind blows you. It ties to goal setting, Goals by Brian Tracy. It ties to so many different things. The Greatest Secret in the World, I forget who that's by. It's like a little clip video on YouTube. There's a lot of knowledge out there that is essentially parallel to stuff. So I want to create, first thing with charity is I want to create an education system to teach people the most powerful things in the world that the traditional education system does not teach people. After that, I feel a calling to orphanages, and I will undoubtedly be expanding to doing those things. I think online is the way I can impact the most people first, but I definitely want to, if no one else does before me, then I want to, we have power to change the world. Places like Burma or a lot of places like Southeast Asia, teaching those kids these things. They also need to learn English if they haven't yet, but getting these kids empowered is going to be really powerful. Can you imagine those kids and turning them on to this powerful knowledge? I can only imagine how that will change their lives and what they can become, and quickly too, So, yeah.
Well, great. Tommy, thanks for coming on. I want to thank you again, and we'll be speaking again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
Cool.
You take care.
Yeah, thanks,
Catch you later.
Hey, everybody. Thank you again for tuning into another episode of the Smart ICO Investor Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this interview with TommyWorldPower. I've got all his information below about Energi, about finding him on Twitter and other social media sites. So please go give him a follow. You can find me on Twitter just by searching for my name, or you can also come to the website and check out our blog. We've got a lot of cool reviews and other information there, and the other podcasts that you can take a listen to. If you like what we're doing here, make sure you leave a comment, give us a good rating, pushes us up higher, and it just lets me know that I'm doing a good job and you like where we're at. So thank you again for tuning into this 7th episode, and we'll see you next time.